What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very, very special guest, my boy Ethan. He knows a ton about MMA, very knowledgeable, and we're gonna get into some stuff. How you doing today, Ethan?
I'm doing great, man. It's Saturday. I'm in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Thank you for inviting me, and I get the opportunity to talk and yap about my favorite topic. So I'm excited for this.
Heck yeah, it's gonna be good. So straight off the bat, bro, I think what a lot of people are talking about right now, and what I'd like to get into a little bit is some of the fight announcements that have just gotten announced. Aaron Pico versus Movsar Evloev, which I'm actually okay with that fight. I would have preferred to see Evloev fight for the title. I mean, my God, if he doesn't deserve to be next, then who does? And Yair Rodriguez versus Volk for their title rematch. What are your thoughts on those two matchups?
So I like Evloev and Pico. Uh, I like it more, I think, because of what it sets up. I think that Yair had a incredible performance against Pitbull, and with Evloev now tied up, him being the front runner for a title shot with Volk. I think this is not confirmed yet, is my understanding. I think Evloev and Pico is confirmed. I think Yair and Volk is heavily rumored and potentially leaked, is my understanding of it. But I don't think there's another fight that you could possibly make. I'll be honest with the UFC Noche being booked for Guadalajara, I was wondering who they could possibly put on the top of that card that would have made sense. And I think that Yair being there, definitely does make sense. I'm with you. Evloev, I think, was probably more deserving of the shot. Uh, I didn't see much of a reason for a rematch when with Volk and Yair won. And his performance against Pitbull was great, but not, I don't think, dominating enough to really warrant that, in my opinion. I would have liked to see maybe a bout between him and Diego Lopez. I think would have been real exciting too. Um, but Evloev is undefeated. He, I think, is clearly the next, contender. But the UFC is a business, right? And we see this happen frequently. What makes money is what makes sense. And if you
Absolutely.
don't have the ability to sell a fight and be entertaining and be somebody that somebody wants to buy a pay-per-view or a live gate ticket to go see, you're not going to make it on the card. That's half of the deal, right? You have to entertain. And I think guys like Evloev have constantly run into that same challenge, which is the inability to sell a fight. So I think this is a learning opportunity. Evloev made some tweets about it. I think real upset about the decision, tweeting at Volk. I think that's kind of how it got rumored, how it broke, that there's probably this other scheduled Yair Volk fight happening. And I think that he gets to take this as an opportunity to learn that it's not just in the octagon, but you have to perfect the other half of it too.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. I agree. And if it's not official, then I mean it's got to be official soon because if his fight is booked, then I mean who else is there? I don't know. I thought that it just made a lot of sense from Yair Rodriguez and Diego Lopez getting into it at UFC 315 at the press conference. I mean they sold the fight right there. So I don't know. Maybe Diego Lopez had a 5 round fight and he got beat up a good bit. So I don't know. Maybe Diego's hurt and he can't make a quick turnaround as fast as Yair was able to. But I think that's the fight that would have made more sense. So if that fight does end up going down with Volk and Yair Rodriguez, how do you see it? How do you see it playing out?
I got Volk, man. I got Volk, and I know people are his chin looked, a lot. Uh,
I like this
you
chin
know,
in the last fight.
Volk's.
Yeah, he took a lot
Dude,
of punches.
he did. He dropped a couple times too. There were some moments where I got real nervous. I'm a huge Volk fan. Volk's in my top. I think he's probably the best featherweight of all time. I think it's real close between him and Jose. I think he gets a couple more defenses. It's not so close anymore. I love Volkanovski. I think he is still that guy, even with what seems to me, at least, to be a compromised chin. I think that it's not what it used to be, right? With that being said, people were so quick to dismiss him against Diego Lopez. The guy lost to Ilia Topuria, okay? Somebody who has since then been the only person in UFC history to not just knock down, but get a finish on Max Holloway, a TKO on Max Holloway, non-submission finish on Max Holloway. Uh, and look at moving up to lightweight, which if you look at the betting odds right now on him versus Charles, which we'll get into later, I'm sure, it's not close. People are favoriting Ilya by a lot. So back to Volk, this is a guy who only lost to the aforementioned Spanish gentleman who has made quite a name for himself since, and the pound for pound #1 fighter in the country in Islam Makhachev, who, by the way, he fought twice. In the first one, extremely close, depending who you ask, may have been a robbery. I rewatch that fight frequently. With that being said, I think you can't rule him out yet again. I think there's probably nobody left in the featherweight division that is going to give the Volk that we saw against Diego Lopez, much more of a run for his money. I think Volk runs that division until he decides to leave his gloves in the center.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I really do, because I believe that he's going to roll through Yair Rodriguez. I mean, it was a beautiful performance the first time they fought. Just pieced him up on the feet and then took him down and got him out of there. Evloev is like a smaller version of Islam, and they have a very similar game. I don't think he's as dominant on the feet as Islam is. So I think you're right, bro. I think Volk can kind of run that division for as long as he wants to. But yeah, I am very excited about Aaron Pico, and I know a lot of American wrestling fans are excited to see him. So there's a lot of comparisons with Bo Nickel just because of the wrestling credentials. But me and you were talking on the phone a couple of days ago. Aaron Pico is a guy that has a little Golden Glove boxing experience. I'm gonna let the cat in real quick, bro. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I'm excited to see how that turns out. I don't think that American wrestling can take another loss.
I think American wrestling is going to take another loss. Is my opinion. And we talked about this the other day. And admittedly, I haven't followed much of Aaron Pico's career. I couldn't tell you his last 5 fights, right? However, how has American wrestling fared in the current state of mixed martial arts? It's a dying sport now. It's not as dominant as it used to be. And I think the reason for that is we are seeing a lot more complete mixed martial artists enter the scene, right? A guy, referencing back to Bo Nickel, like Rainer de Ritter, who is a great example of in my opinion, a complete mixed martial artist, right? Extremely qualified in his striking specifically. Bo Nickel decides to stand with him, right? Because this isn't a collegiate wrestling match. We're in an octagon, right? So that's expected. And you get the outcome that we had, which is absolute dominance. It looked like Bo Nickel, it looked like Bo Nickel really had no place in there. So I have a hard time really finding much examples of American wrestling still holding a dominant place in the current, climate of mixed martial arts. I think that it's kind of expired. I think American jiu-jitsu has much more of a presence right now in the UFC, and it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it's BJJ, and people are so quick to give the accolades of that to Brazil. However, in a major way, Americans have adopted that sport, transformed it, and taken it on as their own. And there are people within the sport that will tell you that Americans do it better. I don't have enough technical experience in it to, cast an opinion one way or the other. But I mean, look at guys like, what's the guy's name? Cornered John Jones last fight, blonde, steroids.
Are we talking about Gordon Ryan?
Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan's the most dominant jiu-jitsu champion that's existed.
Yeah.
Not Brazilian, right? I think that's and again, admittedly, not I don't follow jujitsu directly, right? But I've seen enough people talk about it where I think that has kind of, in my opinion, replaced what the American mixed martial art which should be and will be in the UFC, right? I think that if it's not MMA, what you're putting on your tagline is American Jiu-Jitsu. I think that that could have a future. But guys like Bo Nickel, and you're telling me, Pico's got this Golden Glove stuff too. I sounds great. I want to see it. I'd like to see, one of these wrestling guys have something they can do on the feet too, and be a mixed martial artist. But the sport's MMA, and you got to have all the tools.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree, bro. I totally agree. And I'm not going to act like, and we can't sit up here and act like Aaron Pico went undefeated in Bellator. He had a really good run, but I think he's like 5-3, 4-2 in his last couple of fights. So, like I said, I think the UFC thinks very highly of him. And I will tell you this, if Aaron Pico is able to pull out a win in his debut against Movsar Evloev, the storylines will be crazy for him versus the winner of Volk and Yair next.
Leah, let me ask you that. Does that put him straight into a title shot?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm not, I don't have the rankings in front of me, but I got to think that Movsar is number one
He's got to
or
be.
two. Or
I know
or
they
two.
still have Ilya and Max on the rankings. Let me pull it up right now. They still have Ilya and Max on the featherweight rankings, even though they both have publicly left the division. So I'm
They're
not sure
ranked.
how that
The
affects it.
UFC's website is absolutely terrible. They have
Yeah.
Max in the lightweight rankings as well.
Well, now that he is a lightweight, it works, But
Yeah, but is he? Is he like? Has he moved to lightweight? Like, is that
he
his?
so the BMF fight with Dustin is at 155, and he has publicly said he will not be returning to featherweight.
Okay, well, good.
But
They
I
need to
don't I
take him
don't know
off.
what qualifies. The rankings are all out of whack, right? I don't know what qualifies you to. Yeah, so it's got Max Holloway at 1, Diego Lopez, they still have it 2, Ilya at 3, Yair at 4,
That
Mobs
can't
are
be.
at.
Yeah, that.
Okay, no, hold on, listen to this. That's crazy. I have never seen this before, ever. If you go on UFC.com/rankings right now and look at the rankings for the featherweight division, it will tell you number 1 is Max Holloway, 2 is Diego Lopez, 3 is Ilya Taporia, 4 is Jair Rodriguez, and 4 is Movsar Evloev. They have them both rated at 4. They've listed them both at number 4 and have omitted a number 5. It goes 4, 4, 6. They have decided to tie Yair and Movsar Evloev in the featherweight rankings. Have you seen this? Have you seen somebody tied in the rankings before?
I can't say I've seen a 4A and 4B before. That's crazy. Well, I think if we look at the rankings based upon who's won and who's lost recently, you've got to put Mobsar up there at least 1 or 2, just because he hasn't lost yet. So yeah, I think if Aaron Pico goes out there and he beats Evloev, I think he's got to be next. I mean, it seems to me like where with Bo Nickel they were trying to build him up a bit. It seems to me like they're trying to put Aaron Pico on this very accelerated pace, and that is and could be probably because he's had a lot of experience in another MMA organization, whereas Bo was fresh in the
And it
UFC.
seems, yeah, it seems a little pick and choosy the way that the UFC brings in other champions from other divisions on what kind of path they want to put them on. Because 100% to your point, and I, excuse me, would agree with this too. A guy coming off from a different promotion as a current or former champion, right? I think depending on the qualifications of that promotion should 100% be placed in a position where they're 1 or maybe 2 fights away from title contention. Michael Chandler is a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
And on his debut, he, proved worthy and put himself right in the position. Rocky career since then, right? But I think some tough losses that we could talk in a different time about that. Anyways, I think that a trajectory like that for Pico definitely makes sense. My question is, why didn't they do that for MVP? Somebody who was arguably more explosive, more talented. Is it because of age? Is it because Pico's, a longer potential contender here?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. All of these guys, these high profile guys that come over, and girls too, by the way, Kayla Harrison, they're being put into great position, even if it's not like a title eliminator fight, they're automatically, two or three at the most wins from getting a title shot. And speaking of that, Patchy Mix has stepped up
Yeah.
on kind of short notice here to fight Mario Bautista. What do you think about that one?
Uh, I would be making all but an educated guess, telling you who I'm picking for that. I will say from what I've seen of Patchy Mix, I'm excited for him to be in the UFC. I like that the UFC is getting these other outside talents because there's so many different ways to enter the sport now, right? You have a lot of guys given the chance to make it, into a early prelim off of Contender, off of The Ultimate Fighter, off of showing up on late notice for a fight, right? Like a lot of guys are getting more of a chance here. So seeing somebody get with more qualifications being put into a higher position sooner excites me. I'm excited for Patchy Mix.
Yeah, yeah, I think a lot of people are, bro. So what I really want to get on to after that, I want everyone to kind of hear your thoughts about the remainder of the year and the cards. There's a lot of people that don't believe a lot of fights are happening, and I think you might have an interesting insight on that. So I want to hear some of your thoughts on the future cards for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm excited for a lot of what's to come, and I think the UFC has revealed, in my opinion, damn near the rest of the cards for the remainder of the calendar year. And I think that if you are paying attention and if you notice and you're picking up on it, you'll see that it's, written in plain sight for who's going to be fighting, when they're going to be fighting. We got all the way up until 319, I think, confirmed with the headliners, right? 320 announced as in Guadalajara for Noche. Let me pull up to make sure I'm trying to check myself here. Yeah, 320 is announced in Guadalajara on September 13th with no headliners announced, but now a very heavy speculated and damn near confirmed title for that being on the line with Volk and Yair. So I've got a list here. Let me pull it up. I believe that following that, we're going to see Pereira and Uncle Live rematch. UFC traditionally does two fights in October, one at the beginning of October, one at the end of October. This has happened, I think, the exception of 1 year, the last couple of years, with one of those fights being in Abu Dhabi card. Okay. I think that the second fight in October in Abu Dhabi would make a lot of sense for Islam and JDM. Ali, what is the manager's name?
Abdelaziz.
Ali Abdelaziz has confirmed that there is a fight scheduled, or a fight will happen between Islam and JDM for the belt this year. I think if you look at the rest of the cards remaining following that, there isn't another way or another place to really put them in. So I think that that's going to be, for Abu Dhabi, makes a lot of sense to put them there. You have Abu Dhabi is also where Bulk 2 in Islam took place, I believe, too, right? So there you get a little return of the Australian thing going on. So with that in place, the beginning of October being a card for Pereira and Ankh, I think makes a lot of sense. Dana White confirmed that fight the day following, that both those fighters were ready to go into rematch. Pereira's got in his contract. He has the ability to call for an immediate rematch following the loss for a title. It seemed to elect that. There was the tweet drama that went on with Pereira claiming that he was hacked. I don't think he was hacked. I think they tried to get him to be booked for International Fight Week, and he couldn't or wouldn't for scheduling conflicts, and they were threatening to give the fight to somebody else, and that's what prompted his tweet, I believe. So I think with a little bit more time and you respect what Pereira has done for the organization, let him have the time he needs, rematch them at the beginning of October with Islam and JDM following that. Moving into November, back at MSG, that's where I believe we're going to see John and Tom have their fight to unify and have probably the most anticipated fight of the year take place. We've been given every reason to believe that that fight is happening. I see a lot of people speculate that frequently. I don't really understand why. We've gotten confirmation and it's just yet to be announced. I think that the restlessness that people experience of the fight not being yet announced has led to them drawing some speculations, and John Jones taking advantage of that and playing into it with The tweets that he's had is maybe I'll just retire, maybe I'm done now, whatever. So I feel pretty confident that we're going to see Sean and Tom at the end of the year in November at Madison Square Garden with one more card, with one more fight left. This is my hottest take and my strongest prediction here. I think our last fight of the year is going to be Pantoja versus Kai Kara France 2. I think Kai Kara France gets it done against Pantoja, teeing up for a rematch in December. That's my final take on the cards that I predict for the rest of the year, ending at UFC 324.
Interesting. I like it. Yeah, bro. I think the reason why a lot of people are doubting the Aspinall and Jones fight is because when you look at the type of characters like McGregor and Jones, and it's hard to even loop Jones in with McGregor because, contrary to belief, Jones does show up and fight every now and then. Where McGregor, we haven't seen him since he got the injury, but McGregor did the whole Ultimate Fighter thing with Michael Chandler, and that fight was supposed to happen, and then press conference is supposed to go on in Ireland, and then right before it, we find out that it's being pushed back. And we've never gotten any more news about that. So I think a lot of people fear that Jones is just holding the belt up. But I really don't believe that Jones is scared of Aspinall. I think that it will happen if given the right number. Pay John Jones enough, and it'll happen. He's out in Thailand, and there's a lot of people don't know this, but there's like an Ultimate Fighter Thailand going on with these this Russian promotion. It's basically like the Russian version of Tough and the Ultimate Fighter. Aljo's out there, a few of the UFC guys, and I think they flew John Jones out to be part of that show that they're putting on. So it'll be interesting to see, bro. I like your takes about it, and I want to finish off with this. One of the biggest fights of the year is going to be Islam moving up to 170 to try and capture that second belt against JDM. I believe that JDM showed almost like the perfect recipe to the anti-wrestling, if you will, to Bilal. And he was quoted saying this, that I think that the Bilal fight was the perfect practice fight for Islam Makhachev fight.
I haven't heard that quote. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So what do you think about that, bro? A lot of people think Islam's going to move up and dominate. I don't think it'll be that easy.
If you asked me, month and a half ago, prior to the JDM Bilal fight, I would have told you that Islam would walk through JDM and we'll forget his name, right? I would have told you it wouldn't have been close and it would have been, no contest. JDM put on a performance like we have never seen JDM perform against Bilal. And you see this with fighters sometimes when they are either champions or contending for it in a position where they're fighting for a belt, you get the best performance out of them that you ever have. And they show a different version of themselves, right? And I think that JDM potentially is that and has that. Let me present you another piece of information with this. Bilal, the reason that Islam and him would not fight and Islam could not move up is because Bilal trains with Islam in his camp.
Right.
Well, that training didn't work. Clearly, it showed in Islam is going to be in the same gym with the same people that Bilal just was, that led to Bilal's ultimate failure. So I think Islam does it still. I think that Islam is definitely pound for pound best. I think that there isn't many people right now that could really give him, much of a sweat beyond, significant strikers. JDM definitely has that. I think that he gives him a challenge. But I think Islam gets it done still. I think JDM just shows that he's definitely not to be, taken lightly. I'm not nearly as confident in it now. I have a lot more, we saw, Islam beat Dustin Poirier, and it's a hard thing for me to admit because I'm a huge Dustin Poirier fan. Islam beat Dustin Poirier probably 4 rounds to 1. I have rewatched that and come to hope and deal with that, right? But it didn't feel that way when you see the damage on Islam's face. And I think that we're going to see a similar kind of fight with JDM. I think that he will show some strong striking, but I think that Islam will probably outperform him in each area, in each round. I think Bilal was stupid to try to strike with JDM and show him his Canelo hands, which I could not find.